We teach here with Social Media Blueprints is how to do this business ethically, how to do this business in a way that sellers want to come to you.
Stop investing in real estate the hard way and start doing real estate investing the smart way.
And got a wire for 45 grand to my bank account in 78 days. This one simple step that I'm about to show you will absolutely blow your mind.
Shout out and say thank you for your social media blueprints training.
It's been awesome. Like, I've had a great experience with social media blueprints.
Everyone here is just here as friends, and we're here to help each other, and we're here to help each other grow.
You didn't just give up on me, you stay right there with me, and I appreciate it so much.
Hey, welcome. We should be good to go now. I'm going to pull myself and Mr. Chris back into the broadcast so we can start rocking this thing. Chris, can you hear us okay, man?
I can hear you. How about me?
Yeah, you're perfect. Okay, so
right.
Just quick recap. This is day 6. This is bonus day. This is Super Saturday. You got Chris, a man that's completed over 1,600 real estate deals, and more than half of them were foreclosures, coming in to talk today about this foreclosure tsunami that potentially is on the horizon. It's been frozen for the most part right now, but it's on the horizon. And this is how you and I, as real estate investors, can step in and help save the seller. You got to understand the process, though. So we're going to do an interview with Chris. We're going to jump into some more learning nuggets for you. And then we've got a special surprise for you towards the end, too. We've got someone on our team. We've actually been completing flips this whole week during the 5-day flip challenge. We completed 4 of them just yesterday, and we're going to get to interview them. We're going to talk to them during the broadcast. So if you can hear me and you can see Chris and you're excited to get some nuggets, let us know in the chat. Let us know you're ready. Let us know you're fired up. Let us know in the comments. That'll also help push this stream to the top of the Facebook group so other people can find us. So let us know in the chat. Okay, Chris, before the tech issue came up there with Facebook, you were kindly telling us some tips on what we can do to actually step into this whole foreclosure world. Can you walk us through those again?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just saying that if we're looking at a property before foreclosure, so we call that pre-foreclosure. So if we're looking at something pre-foreclosure and we're working directly with the homeowner, before it goes back to the bank and everything, then I think approach everything with a spirit of service, right? Really try and serve that homeowner and help them out of a tough jam. In this case, with everything that's happened with COVID over the past year and a half, a lot of people have found themselves in a tight space. And for the most part, it's not any fault of their own. It's just the circumstance of the world that we find ourselves in. And so approach them with a spirit of service. And so that same thing can carry over when you're working directly with the bank. So if a property goes through the foreclosure process and ends up back at the bank and becomes an REO, a real estate owned by the bank, then same thing, serve the bank. That's your client. Serve the bank at that point, and make sure that you become somebody that bank can depend on, somebody that they know if they get another house back and they need to dispose of that house fairly quickly, that you're their go-to person, especially smaller banks, right? Smaller banks would love to work with people like us.
Yeah, small banks, and when you say small banks, can you define that for us, Chris? Because a lot of people, they might not understand what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I use the word bank generically. It could be a bank, could be a credit union, could be just a mortgage lender that doesn't have banking apparatus like checking accounts, things like that. But for me, small is typically about 10 branches or fewer, right? It could be 10, 15, but a fairly small bank. So for instance, if you live in an area where there's that community bank or community credit union, and they're just kind of the locals, right? They have 3 branches or 5 branches or sometimes 1, but something that has 10, 15 branches or fewer is considered small in my eyes. That doesn't mean we can't work with regional. people that are banks that maybe are spread out over 3 or 4 or 5 different states. But when we can talk to the branch president or even the bank president, because there's only, again, 5 branches in the entire system, then man, we can really build some great and powerful relationships that way.
Yeah. So these small banks. So like, if I'm going to do this, like when I used to, like Chris, I used to buy a lot of properties that were REO or foreclosure. And what I would do is I would Google search and I would look for community bank, or like Chris is talking about, credit unions. And I would what pops up though is you'll still get like the big nationals. I cross them off the list, and then I call all the ones that are really actually small banks, and I have conversations with them. So small banks are a gold mine. So Chris is spot on with it. Chris, where in the process can we intercept the ball? If we're talking about like sports, the banks miss some payments, the bank's getting huffing and puffing. Where can we step in?
Well, that's a good question. So if it's before foreclosure, so it's before the bank has actually taken the property back and it's outside of the, out of the owner's home hands and everything, then directly with the homeowner is my ideal place to work. If I can work with that homeowner and help them, again, save their credit, save their equity. See, this is another thing that we sometimes forget, is that a lot of times these homeowners, they might have had this property for 10, 15 years, and they built up some equity, both by reducing their original principal balance that they started with, plus with the appreciation that they've gained over the last 10 or 15 years. They have a sizable chunk of equity oftentimes in their property. But if they end up going through the foreclosure process, they're going to lose all that. Not only will their credit be damaged, but they're also going to lose all of that potential equity. They could lose $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 that could really, really help them. And so if we can actually get to them before the foreclosure happens, then that's going to be ideal. So targeting pre-foreclosures is a really, really good thing for them. And it helps us because it's oftentimes easier to work with that homeowner than it could be with the bank. Because one other thing about working directly with the bank is sometimes they have to go through a lengthy process, depending on what state you're talking about and everything. They have to go through a lengthy process, and it might be a little while before the bank itself is going to be able to work with us because they have to jump through all the legal hurdles that could be in place. Lost your audio. Can you?
There we go. And that lengthy process that you're talking about, Chris, I'm going to pop up a couple of slides because we should talk about this. This is real life stuff that we all need to know and understand if we're going to step into this whole like foreclosure saving business, so to speak. Now, this may or may not be your niche. We've talked a lot about niching over the last week. This may or may not be your thing, but the thing is that you still might get a deal that pops up in your lap that is a foreclosure or a pre-foreclosure. And it's important for you to understand the process that people are going through. So like this is the foreclosure process right here of one state. I think this one specifically is California. I think, Chris, you started mentioning California. Actually, I don't know which state this is from. I grabbed a few different ones because I wanted to give examples. Regardless of which one this one's from, just know that every state's different. So you'll need to search and research your state to understand like where the things actually happen. So there's generally a timeline of missing some payments. And then eventually the bank is going to say, whoa, no more of this. I'm coming in. I'm taking legal action. Now, if it's a government-backed loan right now, the legal action has been suspended, frozen. They call it a moratorium. I think right now the latest is until June 3rd. It's been punted and punted and punted. It's been frozen since last year, like almost a year now. And they keep punting it down the road. Eventually, they won't be able to do that anymore. Eventually, all like government stimulus stuff runs out. Right now, the stimulus is basically funding that. The government bailout money that they keep pumping out is covering the banks until the Band-Aid can be ripped off. But eventually it's going to come. So this is kind of that foreclosure process, so to speak, on the front side. Now on the back side, after it has been foreclosed on, then we've got a different set of rules to play by. But in the front side, Chris is talking about this. They missed some payments. And all the way up until the day of the sheriff sale or the day of the auction, it depends on what state you're in, but they'll call it either a sheriff sale or an auction, you can step in. You can help potentially. Now, if we're talking like a day before the auction, that gets a little dicey. Chris, have you had any of those calls from people before?
Unfortunately, I did. It was a few years ago, but I had a guy that called up, wanted some help, and he said, I've been seeing your information about you now for quite a while, and I thought, man, I better call and see what you can do. And so he called me. We talked about it. He had, by my estimation, somewhere around $85,000, $90,000 of equity in the property. But guess what? He was 3 days before foreclosure, before the auction. And so now in some states, like you said a second ago, in some states, you might literally be able to pay the bank or, get him caught up or pay that off or whatever the day before and be okay. In this particular state, and I don't remember where he was calling me from, but in this particular state, it just wasn't possible. Just wasn't possible. So yeah, unfortunately, I've seen that.
I had a guy going through tax foreclosure that he had waited in tax foreclosure. Like if you look at this timeline, the tax foreclosure timeline is much longer. Like they'll usually wait years before they'll actually foreclose on a property. In this particular one, he had missed taxes for about 3 years, and he called me roughly 3 days before the day. And he's like, can you, and like you just described, this guy had equity in the property and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to help. Like I totally wanted to serve, but in this case, it was just too late. Title company just couldn't do the job fast enough. So yeah, if you got a week though, most title companies can pull it off. The longer, the better. Now, if I've got a seller, and Chris, you tell me your process, but if I've got a seller that calls me and tells me that they're in this status, like I've missed some payments, things like that, right away, I'll tell them, hey, we're working on a limited time frame. Yep. And then I'll usually educate them, whether it's on the call or when I'm sitting face-to-face or it's a Zoom call. I'm going to educate them and say, hey, just so you know, a lot of times it looks like this. It depends on the bank and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of times it looks like this. So we are working with limited time. I'm not at all saying that to rush you, but I just want you to know that we don't want to wait till the 11th hour on this. Not if we want to save your equity.
Right.
Chris, anything you do different on that or you would add?
No, I think sometimes people think that they have all the time in the world, or sometimes, especially, this is my greatest fear right now with all these moratoriums that you talk about, how the can keeps getting kicked down the road and everything. My greatest fear with that for the homeowner is that they are going to think that it will never end, right? That the foreclosure will never happen, that it will never come. And so in my opinion, the government or, whoever you want to point to, they're unfortunately setting people up for a type of failure, I guess you could say, because eventually it is going to come. Eventually there's going to come a time where there's no more moratoriums and the banks or the lenders are going to come and go through that process that you have described right there, but they're going to go through it very, very quickly. And so there's not going to be any more waiting around and everything. So that's my biggest fear for the homeowners right at the moment.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. My wife is from South America, and they rolled out this program in the Colombia where she's from. They rolled out this program where it was like government subsidies to try to help folks that were struggling during economic crisis like we're in right now. And they basically gave a bunch of money out, and it was designed to like plant farms and be entrepreneurial and things like that. And what they figured out is that less than 2% of the people that took the money actually started any kind of business. Like it just, and a lot of times that kind of stuff can happen. And right now who knows what this will look like on the back end. I'm all for helping people, but just, it's got to be done in the right way. It's got to be done in a way that they can actually, like, you teach them how to fish, not just give fish, because that's long-term taking care of your family.
Absolutely.
Up on my screen now, this is the California timeline. California timeline's a little bit longer. Some states are like this. It really depends on the state you're in. If you're talking about like Texas is really short, boom, boom, cut and dry. But every state's a little bit different. But you can find guides like this, like I found when I was Google searching around out there. Okay, cool. Next thing that I want to talk about is basically the bank write-off process. Chris, have you bought deals on the backside of foreclosure before too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the majority of my deals have come that way.
Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. Now, you got well over like 800 plus deals, it sounds like, that were on the backside of foreclosure. Like they already went through the whole system. Now they're REO, or real estate owned, or what we know as real foreclosures. Okay. On the back end, I'll explain some of the whys on why banks do that and why banks get to that spot. But what I'd love to know from you is, how do you actually work with the bank? Because a lot of times people will say to them, well, Nate, hold on. The banks are so demanding. They got these thick contracts, and you got to play by their rules, and you got to do this big earnest money. And how'd you do it, man? How did you get in and out of 900, 800 plus deals?
Well, first of all, I learned from somebody else, right? I didn't try and tackle it on my own. I learned from a couple of other people that I knew that were doing it. And so I followed their lead. I followed and learned from them. I followed their processes and everything. And so, yeah, they do have a process. You're exactly right. The bank has their process and everything. And I think it gets back to what we were talking about before. It depends on what bank you're working with as to how strict they are with their process. So going back to the size of the bank, if I'm dealing with the big nationwide banks, like you mentioned earlier, if I'm dealing with them, probably there's no room for any kind of variance from their policies or their procedures or anything like that. And so it's going to be more difficult. Doesn't mean I can't buy anything from those banks, because I've bought stuff from Wells Fargo, from US Bank, from Bank of America. But you are going to have to probably do it exactly the way that they dictate for the most part. However, if I'm dealing with the smaller local or regional size banks, then there probably can be some flexibility there. For instance, I was buying a property, actually 4 properties from a bank, and I basically presented my offer as though I wanted to be able to assign my contracts to somebody else, or at least have the flexibility to assign the contracts to somebody else. Well, their initial reaction was to come back to me and reject my offer because of my clause in my contract that said I had the ability to assign it. And so they rejected my offer. I said, okay, no problem. They wanted me just to buy them outright. I said, no, that's okay, no problem. And I started to walk away from the table, figuratively speaking, right? And they came back and said, well, we'll do it this time, right? And that's the flexibility that a smaller bank has, is they can make those decisions. Whereas if I'm dealing with those nationwide banks, you're probably never going to get to somebody, an asset manager or some type of person in management that has the decision-making ability to be able to override their company policies. But a local bank, you can do that.
Well said. Well said. I'm thinking back, this property, I think 1048 Rose Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota, same situation.
A good memory. I would never remember that.
I haven't done 1,600 deals like you, man. At some point, you just start forgetting, right?
It all runs together.
So this particular property, it was a small local bank, and I also wanted to get the assignability. And those of you that are like, what the heck does assignability mean? It simply means this. When we put, as a real estate investor, when we put a house under contract, it's a nice option to have, that we can give that contract to someone else for a fee. That's called an assignment of contract. So when we're talking about assignability, it just means that we can assign our contract away. Now, banks don't like that. Here's why. Think about this. Like credit card company, let's just pretend that you're with American Express. If you read the fine print of their contract, it says, hey, we'll let you borrow this money whenever you want, and you just got to pay it back. But the thing is that you can't turn around and assign this contract, therefore assign this debt to somebody else. You just can't do that. So banks put that hard, fast rule there because they don't want you doing something with the commitment that they've made with you and then turning around and giving that to someone else, getting rid of it. So same thing when they're doing a sale of a property, they have their same attorneys come in and write the contracts. They're saying, no, you can't do a signing. Nope, can't do that here. So with a small bank, you might be able to have a human conversation about that and say, hey, here's why I need to do this. And I did it on Rose Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota. I had this buyer named Chuck who was buying a lot of properties from me. And I put in this offer with this small local community bank, and then I explained to them there was a realtor in the middle. I explained via the realtor in the middle that I had a client that really wanted this property and would be a really good fit for it. And we were going to make sure it was all going to go through. And I gave them my assurance, and they said, okay, we'll do it on this case. They let it go through. Big bank, though, no. Chris is right. They won't do it at all.
Yep.
You got a question here, Chris, from Michael. Michael's asking, Chris, I don't know if you've answered this, but what states did you do the majority of your foreclosures? Just curious. I'm from New Jersey, and it's a long process.
Yeah. So great question, Michael. I appreciate it. So I don't know where the majority have been. I've done deals in about 30 different states. I guess that's not true. I probably could pick out, probably the majority of mine have either been in Michigan or Ohio for the most part. So the Midwest for sure, just Great Lakes region all through there. So that's probably been the majority, but still spread out over multiple states. And yeah, those long processes like what you're describing there, Michael, like in New Jersey, absolutely. That process is very, very long. But to me, that also gives a lot of opportunity to work directly with the seller, because you do have a little bit more time to help them out of that tight jam. The challenge, again, is going to be to convince them that the time's going to come when they're going to be up against the wall, and it's better to deal with it ahead of time before it gets too deep and too far into the process.
Boom. Okay. Roger's asking, can we have the slides? Roger, anything that we promise, we will definitely get to you. Our team's working really hard. I can't add new stuff to them right now because we're working so hard on the Accelerator Summit for next week. Highly recommend that you're there. Like we did a team planning meeting on this yesterday. We had 14 people on the call. So 14 of our team members are coming to serve on that call. These are some of the highest level real estate investors. Like we got Randy Vaughn that's coming. Randy Vaughn and his partner, like just a week ago, I was sitting with them in their market, and literally they had closed 2 deals back to back that were really high net numbers, like 6 figures plus between the 2 deals. And I'm not saying that's like, say you're going to like copy Randy immediately or anything like that, but I'm saying these are really, really good people. They're coming to the summit. They're coming to serve. They're coming to share. And we're going to take the momentum that we've created during this challenge and continue that momentum. But we're going to get deeper as well. We're going to get deeper on some areas that, like, we've been hit with so many questions. With 1,200 of you registered and coming and showing up to this challenge at various parts, we've got so many questions in, and we've taken the top questions and we've really shaped this summit for you. So we're trying to serve on that. We're trying to go above and beyond and really serve. So yes is the simple answer. Anything that we promise, we will definitely get to you. I just can't add anything new to them. Next one from Michelle. Hey,
Hello,
Michelle. How you doing, Michelle? Michelle says, if you come across a pre-foreclosure on your own, do you let them know that you want to help them with their situation, or don't let them know and just follow the regular script?
Well, that's a great question. So can I tell a war story?
Please.
So one time, again, most of my stuff has been remote, right? Virtual. It's been, with me being 1,000 miles away from a property or whatever. However, I was living in Utah prior to this. And one day I got a brave bone in my body, I guess. And I thought, I'm going to go and I'm going to knock on a couple of these doors where I've gotten some pre-foreclosure lists and everything. And so I go and I go to the very first house, and I didn't even get to the door because the homeowner was out in the driveway washing their car. And so I go up, he's like, hi, who are you? And so I said, and Michelle, this is a long, long time ago. This is when I really didn't know what to say. I didn't have any kind of scripts or anything. And so I talked to him. I said, well, I introduced myself. I said, listen, your name came up on I verified who he was. I said, your name came up on a search of county records showing that you might be facing, I was trying to be really delicate, right? You might be facing some foreclosure issues. And this guy, boy, you could see him go from somewhat friendly, kind of wondering who I was, but somewhat friendly, to red in the face. And I mean, he was just like, he said, "What in the world are you talking about?" And I'm like, I could tell I had just poked the sleeping bear or whatever. And so I'm like, well, I just, found this list or whatever. And he's like, "I'm not in any kind of having any kind of problems or whatever." Very, very defensive. Now, whether it was a mistake, I don't know, because I left. I got out. I said, "Okay, sorry to bother you." And I got out of there because, who knows? We might have been on one of those 911 shows had I stuck around. But anyway, so what I found through that is that sometimes it's better to, for one thing, that's why I don't knock on a lot of doors anymore. But the way that I typically approach pre-foreclosures now, I guess it depends on how I'm contacting them. But if it's a letter, it's a fairly gentle letter, right? It's something that maybe mentions foreclosures or pre-foreclosure. But for the most part, the way that I like to approach folks like that is to just let them know that I am a resource for them. Because believe me, the people that are going through these problems, they know they're going through these problems. They know that they're facing all these financial difficulties. Now, we might lace the letter or lace our communication with them, or if we do some social media advertising, like we would really encourage you to do, then we can lace an ad with pain points and things, and let people know that that we can help if they're facing any kind of problems like that. So I don't know if that illustrates it enough, Michelle.
I think you got her. She says, "Yep, that's what I was thinking."
Okay.
Yeah. And Chris is spot on. Like, it's much better to have people coming to you in the business. Like, we taught this week during the challenge how to get opportunity coming to you. It's not you going out and like begging anyone to go work with you. You're not door knocking. You're not cold calling. You're doing some Facebook group posts that lead to people bringing deals to you. Okay, that's step one. That's the easiest and fastest. Step two, we'll talk more about at the Accelerator Summit on Friday and Saturday, are ads. Okay, ads, that's you putting an actual like post. It's not a boosted post, but think of it like this. It's like you putting your hand out there and then paying Facebook to promote it. Then you get people coming to you. Okay, there's a big difference between you going to them and begging them for something, or you blindly knocking on their door and then them coming to you asking for your help. Huge, huge difference. I see so many people fail in this business when they try that whole cold calling thing. Yeah. Like, you can only get rejected so many times.
Yeah. Had I not already done some deals by that point, I probably would have looked at that as though, do I really want to be in this business? And so thankfully I'd already done some deals. I knew that it was a legitimate business. I just found out that was not the way to approach people.
So well said. So well said. Okay, we got a couple more things that I really want to make sure that we hit. And like you can see here, like Chris, he's out there doing this business at a really high level, ethical level. Him and his brother Brandon are like two of the most ethical guys I've ever come across. And I asked Chris to come be part of what we're doing here, teaching people. And now Chris has had the opportunity to help mentor well over at least a few hundred people that have come through at various times through what we're doing. And you can see probably now why I chose Chris, and I asked Chris if he could come on board. So you guys liking Chris? You guys dig what he's saying? Yes. Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. Next weekend, I asked Chris if he could come back and actually help host. And then number two, share. He's going to bring some more folks, some more real estate investors, and he's going to share as well during next week's summit. Chris, the last time that I asked you to come to a summit, would you say that the people got a lot of good nuggets out of it? Did they get some value out of coming to that?
Oh, based on what our feedback was, absolutely. A couple of people stand out in my mind that actually took a lot of action at the summit. The things that were taught to them at the summit and everything, they took the action and they got results in less than 24 hours. So yeah, it was so much fun. I appreciate you letting me be part of it because it was actually phenomenal to watch.
And that's the outcome that we're looking for. Like, we recognize that during a 5-day challenge, there's only so much that people can accomplish, but already people are getting amazing results. But this like building of the momentum muscle, building of that muscle to start your business, it takes work. It does. And I know from every bone in my body, I know that I have to, it's my job and ethical duty to help you get to the next step, to help you continue in this momentum. So that's why I give such the strong advocate and push for it. And that's why I asked Chris to even talk about it too. The next thing that a lot of people get worried about, and I'm going to ask Chris maybe to hang with us for 2 more minutes to talk on this. But the next thing people get worried about is that like selling proposition. Like Chris went and knocked on a door and got rejection. And so some people, they get afraid of actually like, okay, even if this person calls me and asks me to come, like I'm afraid to put the contract in front of them. I'm afraid of rejection is kind of what it boils down to for a lot of people, or fear of not having the knowledge to answer questions, things like that. Chris, are there any bullets that you might give us on making selling not salesy?
I think, and this is something that I've really learned from you, Nate. My first mentor had this in him, but he didn't, I didn't get to see it as up close and personal, but is just being yourself and really wanting to help other people. For those that may not know, Nate has a process that he's shared with me and some people inside the organization that really gets to the core of who he is. And he calls that his daily devotions. It's something that he reviews each and every day. It's things that he is, things that he wants to be, ways he wants to improve. It's something that I've adopted in my life and for my personal life as well as my business. And one of the things that I noticed from his is that he's not after money. He's not after status or wealth or any of those things. Those are going to be good byproducts, but he's not after those. He's after being able to help people, whether that's in the real estate space or in showing other people how to be investors and everything. And so I think if you approach it from that standpoint of service, we've mentioned it several times, but it really is that, right? If you can approach it from that standpoint, then I think that automatically takes out a lot of the salesiness around doing a transaction and everything. I just recently was talking to somebody buying a car, and they said, when I went in to buy the car and everything, and not all car salespeople are this way, but this was their experience. They said I could tell they wanted me as a number. They wanted me to be able to post on their board. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about really and truly serving people. And if you can help them, you help them. If you can't help them, then maybe you give them advice on something else that would help them. But that, I think, will take the salesiness out of it.
So eloquently said. Service. I love that. We're going to talk more about that. I would really appreciate everybody that's on with us right now. If you could please just show Chris some love and thank him for showing up on a Saturday. Chris, you'll be at the summit with us next week, right?
I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. Yes, I will be there.
Okay, so we're going to have more of Chris next weekend. You can grab tickets to the summit at REI acceleratorsummit.com. Jump there. You'll see Chris there. We'll be jamming more with you, Chris. Thank you again. God bless you, man, for jumping on today.
Nate, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you. Great to see you today, and I hope to see you next week. Everybody take care.
Awesome. Okay, so I got 1 minute here, and then I'm bringing on another guest that has been working while we're doing this challenge together. She got the challenge of actually going to a brand new market and helping get some deals. And I'm going to bring her on in just 1 minute here. I want to continue on one thing that Chris just said. Chris was talking about selling being a service. Okay. I want to help eliminate this like gremlin, this objection that pops into people's heads about doing this kinds of stuff, helping people. On your screen right now, you can see a woman named Cynthia. She's the lady that's standing next to my little boy that's holding the big check. And then I'm standing there holding my other little boy. So I got a 7-year-old and I got an 8-month-old. And as we're sitting there talking, this was a surprise for her. This is a seller of a property. I think I told you guys this on day one. Her name's Cynthia. And Cynthia was going through foreclosure, just like we're talking about today. She was in the pre-foreclosure stage. Her lender hadn't gone all the way through, but she was going through foreclosure. We had to step in, and we tried to like send her to a realtor, but when we realized the timeline and whatnot, we had to step in full-fledged and take over, essentially. And she thought she was going to lose everything. She literally called me shortly before closing and said, I know this is done. I know I'm going to lose it all, but I really want to thank you for doing everything that you have for our family. And I said, stay in faith, pray, stay in faith, Cynthia. And then on closing day, I sent her a text and said, hey, Cynthia, you might want to go to the title company. They've got something there for you. And she went there and she picked up a big check, and she was so excited, and she's texted me a bunch since then. And then this year we got a chance to connect with her again, and we made a gift to her for her kids. And this is my son coming out with the check, and she's pretty much teared up right now telling her story. And it was like an amazing experience. I can't even put it in words to you, but it was just an amazing experience just to see the impact that we could have in a seller's life. It was amazing. And it started with selling her on working with us. But sales is a service, just like Chris said. And you have to believe in all of your heart in what you're doing in order for it to feel like that. And I believe with all of my heart and soul that this method that we've been talking about together, this HIT method, part of the Home Invest tribe, this is the future of how we're going to do this business. This is. And for some people, this might be the only way to do this business. I know for myself and our team, this is the way that we do this business. This is the only way. And when you have that kind of conviction, that belief in your body, it helps people make powerful decisions, including your sellers. When Cynthia had to make the decision, like she could have called 900 other people in town that list houses for sale, that buy houses. Like there's a lot of people. But the reason that she chose to go with us is because we had the conviction that we could help her. We had the knowledge, we had the conviction, and we did it. Okay. A question that often comes up to me is like, well, Nate, how do I get that knowledge? Can I go deeper with your team? But the thing is that I'm also doing this other thing over here. Or I also, remember on day 1 or day 0, Sunday, we talked about David and Goliath, how at first when David was going to go into battle, Saul, the king, tried to put his armor on him. And David said, no, this is too heavy. No, I just want my slingshot. This is what I know how to use. It's what I'm good at. And the thing is that like, even if you're doing, or you've learned other ways, a lot of those ways, maybe they work for a time, but maybe they're not working right now. A lot of times that's because that's Saul's armor. It's too heavy. It's too big. What you need is that slingshot that David used to take down Goliath. And to get that slingshot, I want you to have not just a flash in the pan, but I want you to have a business style that's not going to go out of fashion. What we're doing right now, what we're talking about, this HIT method, it's not going to go out of style. People always will respect you when you treat them the way that they want to be treated. People will always respect you when you're transparent. People will always want to do business with you when they know, like, and trust you. This is the way that real estate is done. This is not going to be a flash in the pan that will go out of style. Okay? This is probably the most important skill set that you'll ever learn in your business too, by the way. I wish someone would have pulled me aside when I first started and said, hey, Nate, don't worry about those crazy bandit signs. Don't worry about trying this cold calling thing. What you need to focus on right here is heart first. I wish someone would have did that to me. It happened over time. It's an evolution of just who I am and who I want to be as a man, as a leader. It's who I want to be. So it's happened over time, but I wish someone would have showed it to me right in the beginning. Okay. For us, we're going to pull on Karma in just a minute. Okay. Our VIPs have already had a chance to meet her. Those of you that haven't got a chance to meet her yet, Karma's amazing. She's brand new to our team, less than a month on our team, and she's already putting up really big numbers. And I just want you guys to see how not difficult this business can be if you got the right attitude, if you got the right heart, if you're pushing in the right direction. Okay. If you've been through like other training programs before with like gurus and whatnot, and it didn't work, I'm sorry. Like, I understand. I've been through them too. I've been through most of them at some point or another. We have students that come to us all the time that have been through some of the big brand names that got little or no results there. Then they come into our world and all of a sudden stuff just lights up for them. They start putting up numbers, it's putting up deals. It's because our process is so very, very different. The importance that we should take away though is that for you, like if sales is one of those fears, just think of this as service. It is service. And if you carve it down to a niche, the niche that we've been talking about all week, it's going to be that much easier because you'll be able to serve that person at the highest possible level. When we bring Karma on, you guys can ask Karma directly. Like, Karma doesn't mess around with 15 different niches. Karma knows one thing. We serve landlords. That is our niche. That is how we're so good at what we do. We don't have to like try to figure out 15 different things. We don't have to try to wear Saul's armor. We pick up our slingshot every day and we go to work. Okay. So if you still have any of those fears, like, oh, I don't want to get rejected when I offer the contract, or like, I don't want it to be slimy or greasy. I used to think that same way too, but it doesn't have to be that way at all. Not at all. As long as you're serving. For the people that go out into this business and they try it as a sale first, like my first mentor taught me, Nate, you just make a lowball offer and you zip your lips. The first person to talk loses. That was what I was trained into this real estate world with. That was so wrong. Like, you wonder why, like, if you punch somebody in the gut, why they don't want to talk to you again. That's what a lowball cash offer is, with it zipping your lips and shutting up. No, that's just horrid, horrid. Instead, we have to think of each dollar that we're making, that's a human being. That's a customer. That's a client. We got to think of them like that. We got to think of how we can serve them at the highest possible level. If you focus on your unique niche and you get really good at serving them, then there's no sale at all. When I was working with Cynthia, it wasn't a sale at all. Like, it was a foregone conclusion when I picked up the phone and said, Cynthia, hey, let me try to help you first. Let me try to slow down this foreclosure. Let me try to refer you to a realtor because they might be able to get you more for the house. I was serving 100%. And then when push came to shove, it ended up being that we were the only option to buy it. Then we stepped up to the plate and we did what we needed to do. We bought it and we found a wholesale buyer on the back end for her. Okay. Those that try it the other way, the sales way first, they always fall flat on their face. It's no wonder. Cold calling and trying to like do a hard pitch over no. That's why people fall flat on their face. Sales is service. Sales is also enrollment. And for you to have conviction for people like Cynthia to get them to enroll in what you're doing or the service that you're providing, you've got to feel that all the way through your whole body. You've got to know so well that you're the best to serve them. And you might say, well, Nate, hold on. I'm not the best yet. Keep training. Stay plugged in. Stay here. Stay here with us. Keep plugged into this stuff so you can become the best. That's how you get there. There's no secret. I wasn't born with this stuff overnight. I've trained up to it. When we bring Karma on, Karma wasn't born with it either. Karma has trained up. She's gotten good at it in less than a month. So it's at this point where with every ounce of my heart and soul, I want to make the strong push for you to make sure you are on that summit next week. Make sure you're there. Don't let yourself stop this momentum that we're creating right now. And I can say that with full conviction, full transparency, because I know what happens on the back end. I know what happens when you stay plugged in. I know what can happen for your business and for your family if you'll let yourself clear out the gremlins and stay plugged in. So we'll see you there. I want to bring on Karma now. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, some of you haven't had a chance to meet her yet, but if you could please give a warm welcome for Karma. Karma's not like a national real estate guru or anything like that. Karma's a regular human being like you and I. And she has so boldly stepped up into this role and she's rocking it right now. And I want you guys to be able to meet her and see what's cooking. So with no further delay, I'm going to bring Karma here. Karma, can you hear us?
I can. Hi, everybody.
Karma, thank you so much for coming in on a Saturday.
Of
You
course.
day off to really just share from the heart.
Of course.
Karma, can we just hear a little bit of your background, just for those that haven't had a chance to meet you? Because I really want them to understand before we get into your wow factor, like, who are you? Where are you from? How'd you end up here?
So I am originally from Michigan, actually, and right now I'm living in Northern Virginia. My background is mostly in it is in hospitality. That's what I went to school for. That's what I've been doing since I started working at 17. And that was my whole life up until a month ago was hospitality. I was introduced to Nate through my roommate, actually. She was on his team for about 2 months.
In hospitality, not to stop you, but hospitality, it kind of got hit pretty hard with the whole
COVID. Yep. Lost my job. Lost my dream job.
So
At least I thought.
everything that you had studied in life up until a month ago came to a close.
Dead stop.
Dead stop. Okay. So then your roommate
Yep.
brings you over here. Okay. What happens next?
She started working on your team with SMB side, and every morning we have these coaching calls that I was a part of. And sorry, I just got walked in on. Sorry.
You're good. This is human. We're human. Everybody here on the broadcast is human as well, and we like family. We like kids.
I guess it's nap time. I heard him screaming, so I was basically a part of the morning calls with Nate and the team every day. And I just really loved everything that he had to say. And, it just was very inspiring during a time that I was unemployed and didn't really know what my next steps were. So when, they were, when the team was expanding, I reached out to Nate and we had a few really good conversations. Nate kept asking me, we had 3 conversations, and every time Nate hit me hard with, Karma, what do you want to do? And I was like, Nate, you can't keep asking me that. I don't know. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to do. I'm at kind of a standstill. And he set me up with Kate, and apparently Kate liked me because I am now working here. I've been working here for about 5 weeks, and I love every single minute of it.
Okay, I was wrong. I said 4 weeks, 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Okay. And Karma, in that time period, everyone here that we're with right now, these are real estate investors. Mm-hmm. Some of them have already got their business up. Some are just getting started. In 5 weeks, could you give us the big milestones, like the deals that you've been able to help take in?
So I think I've done about 8 as of right now. I really just started with the trainings, Nate's trainings. And
Hold on. 8 deals under contract.
Correct.
Did I hear that right? Did you guys hear that right? She's taken in 8 contracts from sellers. 8 contracts.
Yes.
Let's give her a round of applause. 5 weeks, 8 contracts.
Thank you.
Okay. For a lot of people, one deal could change their life. Mm-hmm. Literally, 1 deal, and you've taken in 8. Yes. Okay. Keep going.
No, that's about it. I've taken in 8 contracts. I'm not a saleswoman. I'm not a barterer. I just get people on the phone.
And do you have to do any sales?
None.
So have you ever felt like you've had to high pressure close somebody or convince them to do something that they didn't want to do?
Not once.
Not once.
Nope. Okay. It's always just a open and honest conversation, a mutually beneficial agreement, and it's turned out very well 8 times thus far. So.
Okay, I made a big, bold commitment when we did this 5-day challenge that we would at least get 1 deal done during this week. Yesterday, what did you and the team get done?
For a different market?
For our business in general.
For our business in general?
Yeah.
We sold 5 properties, or is it 4? 5. It was 5. Yep.
But 4 of them were yesterday, right? I could be off. Did you guys get 1 more last night?
Not that I saw. No. Okay. But it was 4 yesterday in general.
4. And how many of those did you find?
2.
You got 2 of them. So you got half of the deals that we sold yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. This is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't this sweet? Literally, Karma, brand new, 5 weeks in. She's pulled 8 contracts already and 2 of her 8 have already sold. 2 of her 8 have already sold. Okay. This is what it can be like 5 weeks in. Now, how did you get to this level of knowledge in a 5-week span?
Through the trainings, through asking questions, the coaching calls, everything. I had the drive to learn. I wanted to be the best at what I was doing, and I made it happen.
Boom, boom. Karma, is there any like words of wisdom that you'd give folks, especially that are starting out fresh, that, you know, that maybe they've got other people in their life, they're like, you can't do real estate. What are you thinking? Because it happens to us. Mm-hmm. What, you've switched industries. What would you say to them?
That anything is possible, that you can go in with nothing and it can turn into something so much bigger. I knew nothing about real estate. I lived in a house. That's about all I knew. And now here I am, and I just can't wait to keep learning and growing.
Well, we want the same, Karma. You're doing great so far. Literally, I don't get to talk to you as much, but Kate does all the time, and Kate speaks so highly of you. Your energy and the passion that you brought to this role, you've definitely earned a spot on this team. And I want to totally recognize you and thank you for coming in and giving it your all.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Could you, ladies and gentlemen, could you help me give Karma some love? Karma jumped on her Saturday. She came and volunteered and wanted to come help out. Good job, Karma. Hands clapped, huge, fantastic. They love you, Karma.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, and please enjoy your weekend.
Absolutely. You as well. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Karma.
Bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're at that time where the challenge is coming to an end, but your momentum shouldn't. Your momentum should not. This should be the beginning of your momentum cycle. And in order for you to stay in momentum, the easiest way to do it is just to stay plugged in. What we have planned for you guys next weekend, Friday and Saturday, it's 2 full days. Yes, I know some people are like, Nate, 2 days, I don't know if I can do that. If that's the thing going through your head, the gremlin going through your head, just know this. You might have to rearrange something in life, literally, because I know what will happen at that summit for you. I do. And I can tell you that with every ounce of my body. I have never had a person come to a summit that we've done in the past. And by the way, this is 2.0. We've added a lot to this to make sure we continue with momentum. So we've never had someone come in the past that was like, oh my gosh, that was a waste of time. Everyone that ever comes thanks us profoundly. They get more deals done. They add more skills to their lineup. Like this is where you need to be. So I'll leave it with that. I'm going to jump over to the VIP call now to make sure we take care of our VIPs for this one. The summit, by the way, is basically 2 full days of VIP. Literally, we're on Zoom where we can talk back and forth. So you can use your mic. You don't have to come on camera if you don't want to, but you can use your mic. We can talk, we can dialogue, we can role play, we can get more solutions and more breakthroughs for you. Transformation does not happen in business without application. So come do some application with us next week. And between now and then, your homework is number 1, sign up for the REI Accelerator Summit. Do that. And then number 2 thing is continue your posts. Continue to bring in more deals. It's only going to help you get more reps. So when you walk into the summit, we can talk about some of those potentials, those potential opportunities. Okay. One more huge bonus, by the way. One more huge bonus. When you sign up for the summit, I told you yesterday that you get our property template brochure, and we're going to train you how to use it. That's the gift wrapping. Let's gift wrap your properties. But number 2, huge bonus. I asked Kate about this yesterday, and we're going to do this. We're going to do essentially the keys to our 6-figure month training. Okay. I'm not saying like, hey, you're going to go and like do 6-figure months every single month or anything like that. But in our business, we have figured out how to get between $40,000 and $100,000. And we figured out how to do it sustainably, consistently. And we're going to show you on that training for anyone that signs up for the summit. You're going to get that as a bonus. Later this year, we're going to sell that as a standalone product for around $5,000. You will be the first ones to go through it as a bonus with the summit. That alone is worth the $47 investment on the ticket. And by the way, that ticket price is fully refundable because we're not doing this for the money. Not at all. We're doing this for transformation. We're doing this because I know what will happen. It's no different than when you serve a seller. When you serve a seller at the highest possible level, there's always a percentage of sellers that want to stick with you and they want to work with you longer. And the same thing probably will happen here. At some point in the future, I hope that we get the privilege of working closer together. And the summit next weekend is just more of an extension of this. You're going to see it live in action. So I'll see you guys at the summit next week. And VIPs, just jump on the same exact Zoom link we've been on all week. So VIPs, same exact Zoom link. You can find it from any of the texts you got from us or the actual emails, the Zoom link. Jump on the Zoom link now, VIPs. We'll see you there. Bye.